Brothers and sisters, we made it. Slow on the draw again. A little stuff happening. Anyway, the original Anchor Babies. Um, this goes all the way back to when I first ever started talking about fallen angels years and years ago. But something had dawned on me, because all these different countries are having like these immigration fluxes, right? And so I was trying to figure out like where did they get that mentality from? Because in America and a couple other countries, if you're born there, you're considered a citizen. So much more so than you just saying that I became one. I became a naturalized citizen, which is somebody who goes through the amnesty process. Uh, Obviously, all the boxes checked, and they disavow themselves from one nation and take allegiance to another. All right, having said that, that's one way that's a whole nother process than the original Anchor Baby. Because the very first of these individuals that were like this, see, if you watched, I had one picture of a fallen angel or what looked like an angel, and then the picture that I changed it to is the freak of nature abominations that were brought about through their trifling with the earth women. And by trifling, I'm saying that they defiled themselves because they're a celestial body, made themselves physical. So came from corporeal to a physical form just to commit those acts. Neither here nor there. Having said as much, their children are the first Anchor Babies ever. This is why you have all these, without oversimplifying history and without making light of situations that take place even to this day, this is why you had all these pulses of people at different times in the history of mankind, through different civilizations, if you will, where strangers showed up out of nowhere, and then more times than not were actually ferocious, violent murderer killers, seed their way into the land, right? And then say that they're of that land. Now what this has to do with the original Anchor Baby? Giants. Give me one moment. This book of Enoch right here. And as I speak on that, I'm just gonna pull up the page because it's kind of like right. It's like one of the first pages, and here we go. Chapter 4. And it came to pass. One second. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them. And one said to another, come, let us choose wives among from the children of men and beget us children. Stop right there. We're going to go to the Septuagint real quick. I got a spiritual gumbo on the way. It'll be an upload. It won't be a live. It'll be dope too. Because it's going to really break into all this and why we're dealing with these types of individuals. Because they're wired differently. Right on? They know they're invasive. Did you hear that? They lusted. Okay, so it's not like they had permission. They didn't go and ask God, could they do this? They just went and did it. When I say God, I'm talking about the Most High, the Creator. All right? Genesis chapter 5, excuse me, chapter 6, verse 1. And Noah was 500 years old and begat three sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth. So his sons are triplets, obviously. And it came to pass, when men began to be numerous upon the earth, and daughters were born to them. Now, this is before Noah, okay? because the angels came down in the days of Jared. I need y'all to understand why I'm speaking on it from this perspective, because this is written a certain way. The story picks up with Noah. So we have to understand why that's so important, because he's the character that carries on with. But after that, it goes back to what the book of Enoch just says. So let's read the book of Enoch one more time, and then we're going to line it up. Chapter 4, verse 1. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. Okay, stop right there. Now, I'm not going to call this literary confusion or biblical confusion, but for people who don't understand or just don't read or just whatever, it's not in them, they don't care. Verse 2 of chapter 6 is not a follow on to what Noah or Noah's life is. It's it's telling us and giving us an understanding of the circumstances and the environment he's having to live in. So, as we read it, understand Noah's living in a time with this already taking place, okay? And it came to pass, verse 2 of chapter 6, and it came to pass when men began to be numerous upon the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons or angels of God, having seen the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, took to themselves wives of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall certainly not remain among these men forever, because they are flesh, but their days shall be 120 years. Now the giants were upon the earth in those days. And after that, when the sons of God were wont to go unto the daughters of men, they bore to them, they bore children to them. Those were the giants of old, the men of renown. Stop right there. Now we're going to go back to this book of Enoch, and we're going to finish off some of this stuff so that way people can understand what is going on. Chapter 8. And all together, chapter 7. So that was so I lied. It's chapter 6 out of the book of Enoch and chapter 7 out of the book of Enoch. There we go. And all the other angels, and all together, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And I'm going to break something down that's super crucial that people will begin to understand when I'm going to put it all together for you. And they began to go into them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began against and they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour another's flesh and drink the blood. And the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. The original anchor babies are what? Lawless ones. The anchor babies now come from who? Lawless individuals. Who are the fathers of these individuals? That's right. You don't even have to even get carried away with it. We're going to break down some stuff that's major within this little section. A lot of people would never even tell you. So, uh, right here, this is why they're typically called witch doctors. This is why the females are typically given the shamanistic role in a lot of places to this day, because it's known that the women made it with the angels. So the angels gave those females the knowledge first. Do you understand? You guys follow what I'm saying right now? So these angels were able to show the women how to make gigantic fruit, gigantic vegetables, right on? So that way they could try to feed these giants. What does it say? And when men could no longer sustain them, meaning they couldn't cultivate the land fast enough, they couldn't produce the produce fast enough. The giants did what? The giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they, the giants, began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish and to devour one another's flesh. So they started to eat one another. Cannibalism. Right. And drink the blood. So they're vampiric. Whatever you call a vampire, these dudes are the first ones ever. Period. That's where vampires come from. You think vampires are so strong and soulless individuals? They still have a spirit. There's a spirit that powers that vessel. Can't have nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So now let's say this right here. These individuals are the original anchor babies. Yes, because they're the original anchor babies. All who come after them have a similar way of being. Note, note, the giants were just fine not eating people until there was nothing to eat. Note, they turned on one another last. Note that. Right. So, another thing, one of the most main important things, all those things that just took place, all the stuff I just read to you about, happened when the earth was just one whole massive one whole landmass, not separated pieces spread about the four corners of the earth. Right. See, that's the whole point to that is the giants only right. They in the order that they turned on the individuals, it tells you that's the proximity of what was closest to them. The birds were next, then the beast. So this is just what they could get to. Obviously, a bird can't fly away from something that's 4,500 feet tall and just get away from it as it chooses to. So they were the next easiest thing to get. Then the next easiest thing were the beast. Then the next easiest thing were the reptiles. Then the next easiest thing were the fish. And after they had, you see what I'm saying? After they had devoured so much, they had to come to their realization we're going to eat the entire earth if there'll be nothing left. So then what did they do because of that? They devoured one another. Do anchor babies, and I'm not knocking nobody who is a child of immigrant or immigrant status. I'm not knocking nobody whose people came here and became naturalized. I'm not knocking nobody who has parents who aren't from the US and they are. I don't even I really don't care. But I'm going to say this right here though. Their need to consume all that there is the same. Doesn't change. Right. This is why all those people who are anchor babies really don't say nothing about all those individuals who break the law to get here. Because they know that's how they got. How did the angels get? Okay, how did the giants get there? That's right, because the angels did something to make that happen. The giants didn't just show up out of nowhere. Right. So when you have this, and let's debunk the idea that the sons of God are the sons of Adam. Because if that was the case, Cain's children would have been gigantic. And that's not noted anywhere with Cain. Right. In chapter 4 of the Genesis, when you read Cain's genealogy, you don't read anything about anybody being giants. But if you read it closely and understand and read the book of Enoch, you can tell at which stages people were at in learning. You only know about people who learned from the actual Bible because that's right. The children of Ish and Isha, of Adam and Zoe, or Adam and what's the other name for Eve? Isha, Zoe, what else? There's another one. There's another name for her. Right on. There's another name. I just can't think of it right now. But anyway, right. When you have a situation where they want me to believe that Seth went on to have gigantic children, but for some odd reason, that's not mentioned. Like, but it mentions a whole lot of other stuff, but the Most High just neglected, right? He just left that part out. He omitted that, I guess. This is how I know that the Bible is a story being told to another. It's a story coming from one individual to another. That's how I know when I read it. Because the Most High God, or maybe the people who translated and transliterated cut out certain things so that way people wouldn't be able to put the story together. I don't know. I honestly don't care because I can put it together just fine. When I read it, I'm not confused. I'm not in the dark. But the original anchor babies would have for you, or the children of the original anchor babies, right? All these Gentiles who run around here, who have the same insatiable appetite. Why do you think white folks are so wasteful? It's not because of us. It's not because of these niggas that they brought to America that they're wasteful. They were already wasteful. They were wasteful. They were wasteful when they didn't have anything. Understand my point. They were wasteful when they had very little. So when they got it all, they became even worse. I'm trying to explain it to people. The individuals who you so badly want to to see your plight or to understand what you're going through are the same ones who come from these type of individuals who are the lawless ones. Do you understand it? The Most High God did not have his law given to people who seeded directly from the lawless ones. Oh, starting to make sense now, huh? Starting to make sense that when your people went and bred and blood mixed with people who had genetic material of those lawless ones, that your people themselves, who are already on some other stuff, practiced a full-blown level of lawlessness because they shirked the law completely. And they murdered people, they would kill people who would keep the law. Or they would try to manipulate a situation because there's something beneficial about this one individual, and we can bypass or overlook the fact that they're a goody two shoe. Ain't that some stuff? But when you have a situation where you can actually just look at it and just read and just, these dudes are anchor babies. The angels wanted their own lineage on the earth. Why? I have no idea. I have no idea. Now I could guess that when I read the book of Enoch and it tells me that the angels in heaven, like the ones that are high up, created Satans, created the Satans, not just a singular Satan, but so it makes me believe that Satan is more than what people make it out to be. Remember, Satan comes in the form of temptation. Name one instance where Satan, not the devil, not Lucifer, but when Satan is brought up in any instance, there was almost guaranteed some situation, some circumstance that deals with temptation. It's a fact. Even when you look at Job's situation, he tried to tempt the man to do what? Right. He put all those people there to say, man, you should just curse God and die. Come on, man. See what I'm saying? That's that stuff. That is that stuff. That's why I don't listen to what people say. I cannot take more serious someone who doesn't take serious what I'm taking serious. So, for example, a person says they believe in science. I say, well, I live by the scripture. They tell me the Bible's not real, it's make believe, it's just a book that's supposed to keep people morally inclined. Right then and there, I have nothing else to discuss with them. Why would I tell them that there's cloning in the Bible? Why would I tell them about gene splicing? Why would I tell them about heredity? Why would I tell them about genealogy? Why would I tell them about any of the things that I'm right? Why even though I know that all comes from the scripture? The people who they would tell me about DNA, they don't even know that Gregor Mendel was a so-called Bible thumper, Augustinian monk. Right. A Catholic dude is the reason why they know about genetics. Don't ever get it twisted. So when you have this concept or this idea that when I say something like anchor baby, I'm using a term that you understand. And I'm not knocking my brothers and sisters. I'm not. I'm using a term that you understand. I had somebody ask me, even though I've done extensive work about the sun and the moon, if I think the days are off. I've been saying that for years, the days. For years, I've been saying the days are off, right? But it's just now starting to dawn on them, oh shit, the days might really be off. But that's okay though. Look, right now it's 4:30. It's about to be dark outside in like 20 minutes. They would want me to believe that even though there's no presence of light, that it's still the daytime. How can that be? Just because the time says that? That's nonsensical. But that's where we're at. So, as opposed to me trying to make it make sense, I'd rather just make sense on what doesn't make sense. Okay, by that point, I mean this. It doesn't make sense to them that I'm calling the giants or the children of the angels, the Anunnaki, the Elohim, whatever you want to call these individuals, aliens, aliens. You know, I'm just being silly, right? If you want to call them aliens, I don't care. I don't give a damn. It doesn't change nothing. There are gigantic skeletal structures that have been found on this earth that are inexplicable. And the only book that gives any credence to any sort of creatures like that living in full fashion and making sense and is a historical foundation to a people is the book called the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, the Tanakh, okay? The Pentateuch, if you will actually be specific, meaning the 5 books. My point is this. How do you have a situation where the anchor babies, right? The children of those who were never supposed to be here in the first place. Follow what I'm saying? How do you have a situation where people can't see it? They don't get it. The individuals who do these things are seeded from those individuals. We're not known for doing that. Real people who are actually of the earth. When I say of the earth, I'm talking about your visage, your color say that you come from the earth. And I ain't talking about no straight hair bone straight, blacker than meat Indians. No, I'm talking about the people, the real ones. And this is where I stand on that. I stand on that. If Gentiles were people, why aren't they called people? Why aren't they ever considered men? Never. The only person who I consider to be mixed couldn't have been a full nig is Paul, and he's the only one that he interchangeably uses the word man with Gentile terms, but no one else does that. There's not a spot in the scripture where you're to confuse a man with the Gentile. And Gentiles are not non-Jews. That's a false equivalency because all other races are named races. Right. So Gentile itself is the actual what they are. There's no land called Gentile. No, because they're not of the earth naturally. What I always say to me, what a Gentile means, I take the GEN word, genetic, right? Genetic piece. Tile is a piece, right? So you have these individuals who have different genetic pieces that make them up, as opposed to them actually being made from the foundation of the earth. Now, with me saying that, people don't want to hear that. The Gentiles who call themselves people don't want to hear that. The only ones they ever tried to depeopleize, right? On paper, legislated it, is us. So I'm forced to believe, forced to look at, and all the Americans who came here, right? Europe dudes, and you know, the real Euro bums, the real Euro trash who was brought here to conquer and fight against the native indigenous Aboriginal populace. right? So when you have that kind of concept, and I'm like, the people who came here first, people, I say that loosely, right, against the other people that were here, I say that loosely too, because a lot of them were Gentiles. Gentiles can be niggas or what you consider a nigga, right? Very much so. Yes, what you would call a black person, or what you might loosely consider a black person, can be considered a Gentile. What do you think? What do you what do you think happened? So there's big black giants, and none of them had big black children. What do you think those are, other than Gentiles? Right on. Other than the Gentiles. What's up, Martin? But the original anchor baby comes from, and it says it in the book of Enoch. It says they're the lawless ones. Whatever that means, bro, you're gonna have to translate that, homie. Because I know that you don't even know what you just put there. Okay. I know that you can't even say it out loud. You're gonna have to translate that. Right. I ain't talking shit, I'm just saying, man. All right, you're gonna have to translate that, homie. Cause that's a corrupted language you got up there. There'd be no need for a new tongue if every tongue on the earth wasn't corrupt right now, player. But however, the anchor babies, that's what they do. They come and they corrupt stuff. They there was no the first act of what you believe to be vampirism comes from the original anchor babies. Yeah, I still use my email, but but the original anchor baby is somebody that does not care about the rule of law. You see what I'm saying? They didn't even ask God to intercede. Think about that for a moment. If they wanted to, they could have. They could have asked God to intercede on their behalf. Why couldn't God send giant-sized manna down from heaven, whipping it up? Why not? So they never asked for help. The angels never asked the Most High God, could they marry the women? Right. They just went off and did it. That's why that term, oh, asking for permission, I mean, begging for forgiveness over asking for permission, that's not true, y'all. Look what happened to the angels. They're a prime example of that. They're not going to be forgiven. Do you understand that? Some of them might be redeemed eventually after they've been purged with that hot ass fire for, an eternity. But yeah, I'm highly doubting that they're going to be forgiven like that. This is a fact. So, that being said, the lawless ones, the ones who brought no structure to the ones who robbed the earth of her structure and of her dignity. Like I said, the angels didn't ask for permission, and the giants, they didn't ask for intercession. What are you dealing with right now? Right. People will show up here now, and now they want all the help they can get. But once they got that, they kind of don't want nothing. They don't want to be bought. These dudes don't even want to learn the language. They could say America has no official language, but the language that they print on the money is in English, homie. So what about that? So I can just say, I can just say for a fact that because there's because they come from individuals who had no regard to the eternal law, the physical laws that are of the land, they'll have no regards for. The reason why the Most High God has to tell Noah and his children afterwards that eating blood is no good is because guess what? The giants were eating blood. They didn't die right then and there, did they? No. But as the earth's environment changes, and these Gentiles are brought up from the recesses of the mountains, from the bowels of the earth, and they all have stories like this. Right. All this happening after the fact of what you call the Tower of Confusion or the Tower of Babel, where in which the earth was divided and the children of men were separated amongst their tribes respectively and their families respectively. That being said, when that happened, the freaks of nature, the children of the freaks of nature, would begin to resurface and descend onto the earth. And through their ascension and descension, and their hostile and battle-ridden, warlike ways, we're at where we're at now. This is why the individuals who call themselves Israeli, this is why they can do what they did. Right. Because they anchored baby their way into a whole culture, took the culture over, mutilated the culture, and now, right, they're trying to finish what they started. You can't have like people who look alike who are claiming that they have. I'm going to give you a prime example. Somebody who comes from the Ottoman Turk Empire ultimately cannot claim to have biblical roots. It's impossible because the Ottoman Turks do not have biblical roots. They couldn't tell you where they came from, dog. But they know that they used to live in the mountains. But they wouldn't tell you much else outside of that. Just like all the other ones don't like to tell you much else outside of that. And the ones who tell you everything, people call them crazy. The original anchor baby puts you in such a terrible position, you have a hard time seeing it. Right? They're like, but Meech, they're the reason everything is fucked up. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. The original anchor baby ruined all. So anything that was a semblance of decency died with them. What you believe to be decency is not decency. It's circumstantial, but it's not true decency. How could it be? How could it be? If someone can just move somewhere, start a family, and that makes them one of those people, right? That means that you would never have, you could never have a consistent whole culture because there's going to be too many individuals who get brought into that culture, who are not of that culture, who bring their ways into that culture. It's impossible to have one solid, true, actual culture then. However, if and only if the land that you live in and live on is yours and yours indefinitely, and the people who live on that land are indigenous to the land, meaning they were there from the beginning of whenever all this was started. I'm not talking about in recent memory or what they call measured history. I'm talking about from the beginning. It's easy for the individuals in Afghanistan to say, well, we've been here for 2,000 years, or 2,000, 3,000 year history. But y'all niggas ain't been there the whole time. And they know they ain't been there the whole time. They know they haven't. Anything they've been there for 2,000 years, you could question all that. We weren't there, but we can most definitely question it. Right. But you know why people don't question it? Because they don't see the problem with the anchor baby. Anchor babies damn sure don't see the problem with an anchor baby. How could they? How would they? If each state acted as its own country, do you realize my parents would have both either had to pick where I was going to have been born, right on? You follow what I'm saying? Or I'm a citizen of a whole other country entirely. Right. When you're a citizen of a specific state, now you might be an American citizen, sure, that's fine. But when you're a citizen of a specific state, Your locale is can be pinpointed. That changes everything. Right on? You're not one of them. So if you can do that from state to state, and even though each state is technically its own country, follow my point. Right. It works the same everywhere else then. So you cannot tell me that I can just go wherever I want to. I bring my own wife. Oh, forget it. I don't bring my own wife. I say I'm gonna get as many women over here pregnant as I can. You think they're gonna appreciate that? You think they wouldn't try to kill me or just kill me for real? Off with his head style? Right. That's what they did, bro. It would literally get you knocked all the way down. What the what the angels did would get you. If you try that as a man today, you'll get knocked down. Get 200 of your homies together that you went to school with and say we all gonna go to another country and we gonna get us a wife. All 200 of us. Somebody gonna come see y'all. And it ain't gonna be the good Lord. I'll tell you that. And that's the facts. So I cannot sit here in good faith, in good consciousness, allow for people to think that uh, the equivalent of an ass wipe is a good individual. They're covered in shit. How could they be? What's good about them? And I so wholeheartedly mean that. Like I said, I don't care how, because I get it. It's different. They're not a descendant of a slave, bloodline on either side of their family. They can't say that. Right. You'd have to be a black person, and you'd have to this is why people from the islands, right on, the people from places like Haiti, the DR and all that stuff, right? This is why they get it. Even though some of them be acting funny, they know what's up. Right. Nigga, your people used to be slaves too. Down there. Don't start acting special. Don't start acting special because you niggas claim to be subject to the queen or subject to the king now. We're part of the realm. Okay, sure you are. That's my issue though. Is that it's so few and far in between. There's a lot more people who are who have a parent who has nothing to do with none of that. They have no idea what that's about. Right. They're mixed. How could they understand? And sometimes it be fucked up shit. Like you got a dude who got a black mama and a white daddy, and come to find out his white dad's people used to own slaves. Or vice versa. He got a black daddy and a white mama, and his white mama's people used to own slaves. It don't take the hurt off. It does not take the hurt off. Because how can you justify? How you see what I'm saying? Or do you see that their relationship as progress, even though motherfuckers is still racist as hell? See, I have to know. I want to know. I've got to know. Like that song where Homeboy said, "Are you saved?" Right? I just want to know. I really got to know. Okay, I need to know. Come on, because that's where I'm at with it. How can you? How can you not see the issue? You're wondering why the individuals who cross the border illegally every day, the northern border from Canada into all the northern states of the United States, all the way from Washington to damn on New York, right? And the southern border, from all the way from California to daggone Alabama, right? Like it's shit like that. It's shit like that. That cha- that changes everything. And these individuals don't care. Right. And where do you think they seed from ultimately? You think they're really people of the earth and they act like that? I want you to really think about it. You think that they're people of the earth and they have such disregard for the law? Thank you. See, a law does not have to be written in order for it to be a law. I.e., when you trip, the earth doesn't have to let you know, hey, you're about to fall because you just lost your balance. It's the law of physics. Can you hear me? So those laws are not written down somewhere for you to go and look and be like, if I jump at this trajectory, at this height, at this angle, and tuck and roll, I should be completely fine. It's not written up like that. The law of understanding is based on experience, and experience is literally based on your survivability. That's it. Did you survive to learn? However, if you have individuals who will disregard such things as if they don't matter, and then when they're affected and impacted, now they want your help. Now they want your help. Here's the craziest part. They're using all this money up for these migrants right now. Why couldn't we have just sent that money to wherever they're at, to wherever they was, to whatever country they was living in? Why couldn't we have sent the money there? They had legal aid, military aid, all that stuff. Why not? Why couldn't they have just done that? You literally brought these people here and created crime, created unlivable situations, people living in squalor, right? Trying to gentrify without saying you're trying to gentrify. Like I said, there's more Hispanics where I live in this state than there are black people. But they want it like that. They want that. That's what they desire. So because they desire it, they seek to make it happen. It's not for no reason. Can you hear me, brothers? It's not for no reason. It's not for no reason that they have no regard for the law. They are literally seeded from the lawless ones. Right. The first lawless ones were gigantic freaks of nature who couldn't be denied. Right. Do you know why people's lifespan was limited to 120 years? It says in the scripture, but if you read it, if you read and understand why it was like that, then you'll get it. Because the angels had tried to see if God would let the giants live for 500 years. Most High God is like, what? Do 500? He's like, that's destruction. That's pretty much like forever. He's like, those in the 500 years that these dudes would live a piece, the whole earth is done. That's it. It's destroyed and over with. Right. So he's like, nah, whoa, homie, you can get 120. You can get 100 years. You're not getting no 500. See, right now you're starting to see what I'm getting at. It's no different than these dudes. We need housing and food. We need jobs. We need visas. We need work visas. But it's like, yo, there's people here who need help. And you would rather me help you than help them. So when the giants were eating all those animals, right? And showing the animals how to be wicked. This is where all the animals learn wickedness from. All the blood eating, blood drinking, flesh eating animals were turned into those things because of the giants. Toxic waste bowel movements that these things were having on the land, in the water, for sure had to change the biodiversity. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it changed the ecological system completely. Another reason for the flood, to get all the nasty waste and all that. Anyway, the original anchor baby would have you to believe, would want you to believe, but they would have you to believe that indeed they're not the ones who are in the wrong here. It's everybody else. It's everybody just got it wrong. Everybody? No, hold on, everybody's got it wrong. See, people not going to another country and staying and going through whatever fate they're gonna have would have been is the equivalent, is the fleshly, earthly equivalent to the angels never leaving their post and trying to mate with the women of earth. Does that make sense? So for all the people that never left the land that they're in, and I mean like not running like a coward, not trying to sneak into somewhere on some weirdo stuff. The people who just, okay, they might have traveled a little bit, but they went back to where they were from. They're like, this is where I'm from. I'll be here for whatever until whenever and whatever happens. Not, oh, I just want to leave. Right on. People like, what you mean, Meech? Well, how do you feel about the people in the Bible, the Israelites and the children of Israel didn't deserve? They didn't. The Most High God told them, it's not because you're good I'm giving it to you. It's because these guys are bad I'm giving it to you. Right. It was a gift. It's not something that they deserved or that they earned. That's the difference. When they moved into the land, the Most High God told them that the land was already furnished, meaning that they didn't have to go in there and build stuff and do stuff like that. All they had to do was go in there, cut down all the trees, let everything regrow for years, right on, get all the bad stuff out the environment, right? Tear down all their groves, all their pillars, burn up their groves, all that stuff. Yeah. All that, all the good stuff, right? Okay, the thing is this, is that you have people who are of a seed of people who were brought here, not because they were militarily conquered. No, they were brought here because they were already servants and slaves in the land that they were in. People hate to hear that. They hate to hear that we were servants and slaves in Africa. It bothers them. It bothers them to hear that our people used to practice child sacrifice over there. That's what we was doing with them dirty ass Africans. Right. Caveat. One of the greatest scenes ever in any movie has got to be in Roots, where Cuz changes his name to Toby from Kuta Kinte. And I'm gonna explain to you why it's such a powerful scene. Black people have gone on about how they robbed us of our identity, they did this and that, they did this and that, but really they didn't take our identity from us. The pale skinned English dudes did not steal your identity from you. They might have helped you forget who you were, but they didn't steal your identity. Actually, in more ways than not, they restored your identity. They gave you names way closer to your ancestral names than the ones that you came here with. Right. We were speaking heathen tongues in the land of Africa. What makes you think we were speaking Hebrew? Like, really, like nobody over there speaks Hebrew right now. And a handful of individuals that really might speak Hebrew, they live in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Can you hear me? So it's way different. People are, how you know that the Ethiopians and the Eritreans are the original people that God created. Them and the Indians and the Aboriginals. The Aboriginals are they're a they're a genetic byproduct of Gentile blood and original people blood. Just like the Indians. That's why they have a certain similar physical makeup. I'm not gonna say in their face per se, but for sure in the hair and stuff like that, and how their bodies are built. That being said, the original people, the very first people are the Eritreans and the Ethiopians. I don't deny that. They just they weren't created with souls. That's why they act the way they act. That's why they are the way that they are. This is why, no disrespect to none of them, they're not known for making soul music and all that kind of stuff because they lack that ingredient because the Most High God didn't give it to them naturally. So even if you bred a soul into them at this point, the soul that's in them is not the soul that God gave man. It's a it's almost like trying to retrofit a piece so that way you can get something to work again. Right on? Like we can make it fit, but it doesn't really go with this. So you don't always get the full use out of it, as opposed to this goes with this piece. So even if it doesn't get used the way that it should be used, they're going to be able to get more from it because it's meant to be used like this. or is meant to have a certain type of usage, I should say, more so than meant to be used like that. If I just said it wasn't meant to be used like that, but you guys get what I mean. So when you have that kind of dynamic where people don't even realize those little things, that's a little minutia right there, that and they're like, you would tell an Ethiopian to their, yeah, I don't mind telling them that they're people, but they're not like the children of Adam people, and that's who they want to be. Once again, mind the fact they want to be the first people and Adam, but Adam's not the first man. See what I'm saying? Like, like, like everybody is a usurper of the actual chosen people. You see what I mean? The individuals who come here and leave a shit ton of anchor baby type of people who so badly want to usurp the people. The Africans in the NFL and all these other sports, they so badly want to be us, but they ain't never made a way for themselves and haven't made a way for us to do anything other than what we have already made a way for to do. See what I'm saying? Right. So from Hakeem Olajuwon to Ndamukong Suh to Victor Wembanyama to Joel Embiid, right? To what was homeboy who played for the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day, man? I can't think of dude's name. He was like the Nigerian Nightmare. What is bro's name? But anyway, there's a whole host. I could think of a whole bunch of African dudes, right on, who are pretty good. But the thing is, we made a way for you. You didn't make a way for us, nigga. We made a way for you, homie. Right. And they would have their children to believe that they deserve more, whatever there is here, than what we deserve. The same way the Giants and them felt about the everything to eat on the earth. They turned on. Listen, I broke it down to y'all. First the men, then the birds, then the beast, then the reptiles, then the fish, then one another. But they should have turned on one another first. But that's a typical fuck nigga move. Okay, after we get done doing all this, then we'll duke it out. So after you made life hard to live, do y'all understand that nukes have the spirit of the Nephilim inside of them? Listen to me. The power of a being that is 4,500 feet tall, if they were to get angry and lose their mind, the devastation is on a nuclear level or beyond. But I'm telling you, nukes come from Nephilim energy. It comes from fallen angel children, gigantic abomination energy. They were a terror upon the earth. They were a terror to all men when they lived. And right now, what's the one thing that most people are actually like, damn, that would suck if it happened? Nuclear fallout. That's the one thing. That's how Israel's able to keep those people terrified over there. People won't talk about the when those dudes literally put nukes on their planes and were flying around the Middle East. What the fuck? Do y'all understand? These dudes are sadistic, bruh. And they are the children of those things. They are a direct byproduct of anchor baby attitudes. They are lawless. I don't have the patience to deal with the ignorance like some people do. I have the willful tolerance to abstain and to refrain from doing certain things. But I refuse to keep my mouth shut on a subject and a matter as important as this. Like I just said, the stuff I said ain't nobody's gonna tell you. And they're gonna want all kind of fucking evidence and all kinds of proof. Nigga, show me how a nuke is not the spirit of a Nephilim. Show me how it's not the spirit of a 4,500 foot tall monster. Right. Show me how it's not. Do y'all understand? what we are dealing with. This this crystal ball I'm talking into right now with a live feed connection is something to be, greatly looked at. One moment, y'all. But yeah, the fact that a person does not think that a Nephilim, a giant, is not the equivalent to a nuke, you lied to yourself. It's a What else could it be? What else is the terror of all men right now, other than nuclear bombs? Right. It's not just one group of individuals who are terrorizing folks. It's the ability that they have that these giant freaks of natures used to have. The original anchor babies had. All right, I'm gonna put it to you guys like this. Imagine a thing that had like the temperament of 20-year-old Mike Tyson, but is 4,500 feet tall and is chiseled like rock. Okay. And like I said, a, an actual blow from them. The idea that they would put all their energy or even a certain amount of it is the equivalent to a nuclear explosion. Imagine how scared people were. The earth was one piece. There was no, I'm gonna go to America. I'm gonna go to Antarctica. There was none of that. The whole thing was one piece. People overlook that and they downplay it so much. Where are you going to go? There's at least 200 of these giant freaks of nature all over the earth. And these dudes can be seen from miles away. Where are you going to go? Right. What you going to do? Like the Hulkster used to say. Because that's the real question. What would you do, huh? Thank you. And so, and people don't want to hear that a nuke is a representation of the power that these things had. Which one would you choose? Would you rather somebody drop, I don't know, 10, 20 nukes on you, or a 4,500 foot tall monster go off for just a whole 60 seconds? You choose. And when I say go off, I mean go completely snap stupid. You choose. Which one would you want? My point exactly. There is no lesser of evil here. They're both pretty damn bad. But that's where people are at. We're on the brink of some crazy stuff because of the lawless ones. And all we can hope for is a solar flare that fries, disables, and dismantles a good number of this so-called technology. All we can do is hope for that the same way that they don't do proper upkeep in their government buildings, they haven't been properly upkeeping the facilities where they keep all these weapons of mass destruction. That's all we can hope for. All we can hope for is that in that day, those who are in charge of those weapons do the unthinkable and do not use them. That's all we can hope for. Because right now, what it looks like, what it's going to be, it ain't looking good, y'all. The original anchor babies have people poised and set for a showdown unlike any other that this earth has ever seen. And people don't want to believe that this is all the work of the children of the fucking angels. I can't I don't want to speak bad about the angels, I really don't. But those in particular, those 200, they are no good, they are foul, they are worthless. They brought all this to the earth. We will never know what peace is like. The closest thing you get to it is when you go to sleep and you get some good sleep. No nightmares, no crazy stuff. That's the closest thing to peace you'll ever feel. Content? Sure. Comfortable? Sure. Joyful? Sure. Peace? Long way from it. You cannot have peace on an earth where they are threatening to end it all with fire. The spirit of the fallen ones, locked away in canisters. These things are hateful and evil. And for whatever reason, that don't nobody think I'm right. Everybody think I'm tripping. But I'll tell you this much. If these guys aren't anchor babies, if the fallen angels' children, who are 4,500-foot tall monsters at the apex of their life, if those things are not anchor babies, somebody, anybody, please tell me exactly who and what they are. With that said, I got a couple more minutes and then I'm done. I'm out of here. You really believe that eating raw steaks comes from not right? Who do you think taught them to do that? Who do you think had corrupted your own people? We had to be told because that's right. We blood mixed and we did this, we did that. So some of those ways were more akin to us than not. But what did God tell us to do? He said, don't do that. Right. If y'all ever wondered why Benjamin did what they did, the tribe of Benjamin, speaking on when they were, because Israel would follow Shaul to war, but Benjamin was his main group. But you guys got to remember the Benjamites at that point had already been blood mixed with the Philistines. The Philistines. Why is that so important? Is because they're one of the places that were taken over by the historical sea people. And the sea people, as documented, were gigantic. 30-foot tall, 40 feet tall, freaks of natures. Uh, Nothing like the ones who came before them, but still a 40-foot tall, still a monster, homie. Like, if you think you're taking on a 40-footer, I'm paying to see that. No guns. No, just your hands and your feet. We might let you get a spear or something like that, but you ain't getting no gun. Hell no. See what I'm saying? It changed everything. Yeah, just like that. What you think you're gonna do versus an army or something like that? Like, I keep trying to tell people, like I throw out the low hanging fruit heights, the 8, 9, 10 feet tall dudes, but y'all don't want to hear about that real shit. Them 15, 20, 30, 40 foot tallers that are probably still more than likely alive on the earth. What would you do if you seen something like that, huh? Right. Like I said, an army of those types of things. What would you do? Because you guys do realize this is what was happening back in the day. Giants would show up to men or Gentile villages, unbeknownst, show up, kill all the men, rape all the women, leave a bunch of bastard babies. In some cases, they would just take over these places and act like they were actually those people. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that you guys have heard happen and take place before in history? Where you go and you kill a certain number of the people and then you claim to be the people afterwards? Or you run the people off and you claim to be the people? Or you just kill them off altogether and just act like nothing ever happened? Yeah, yeah. Who that sound like? Y'all know who that sound like. It sound like America and everywhere else on this earth. Most of the Africans who live in Africa are not indigenous to the land. No more so than the so-called Afghans who live in Afghanistan are indigenous to Afghanistan. Right. They've just been there for so long that's their home. Right. But that doesn't mean that it's actually theirs. It doesn't make it's not theirs. They're just living on it. Right. You know what this reminds me of? Um, and I end on this note. See, the children of the earth are like a people who are an heir to a massive company. And there's people that are on the board who more or less are either unaware or just don't care about who you are because their importance has already been cemented in what they've done or what they feel they've done. But then you show up and say, hey, I'm the rightful heir to this thing. It's all mine. And sure, there's going to be pushback, but eventually they have to give you what's yours. Or rightfully so, you take it. May tomorrow be better than today. And may your next week be better than your last. The original Anchor Baby is an abomination, child of the angels, who so much had to hate the Most High God and had to hate mankind that if they had considered for a moment that there could be abomination, freaks, and natures that could rock the foundation of this earth and what it was built upon, that they might have reconsidered that. They had to have hated it. Anyway, Anchor Babies, the original. People probably didn't see this one coming, but yeah, that's where we're at.